Tonight's story is called I Don't Miss Him Anymore, and that's the scariest part. It's about the kind of grief that doesn't fade. It repeats. The same moment, the same second, the same breath before impact, over and over until sleep becomes something you fear more than waking. And when someone finally offers relief, when a program promises to stop the nightmares, to give you rest again, you learn the difference between healing and being rewritten. This story contains themes of grief, trauma, and psychological manipulation. Listener discretion is advised. And now, the record begins here. I Don't Miss Him Anymore, and that's the scariest part, by NoSleep Scribe. Jonah Pike learned to fear bedtime the way some people fear water. Not the dark, not the quiet, the drop. That instant when the day stops holding him up and his mind, unsupervised, unmedicated, tilts backwards into itself. Most nights he fought it. He stayed upright on the couch until his spine ached and his eyes burned. He watched reruns with the volume low and the captions on, as if words could anchor him to waking. He scrolled through articles he didn't care about, just to keep his brain busy. Sometimes, when the exhaustion became physical pain, he let himself lie down. That was when the loop started. He never remembered the crash. He remembered the approach, the seconds where his hands tightened on the steering wheel and the air in the car changed, charged and metallic, like the world had bitten down on foil. The breath he took because he didn't know it would be his last calm breath for a long time. The part where, in his dream, he still had time to do something different. He always woke up before the sound. His body didn't know that, though. His body believed the crash happened every time. It dragged him out of sleep like a drowning man breaks the surface. Violent, desperate, swallowing air too fast. Tonight was no different. Jonah woke on the bathroom floor with his cheek pressed to cold tile, the world tilted. His mouth tasted like pennies. His stomach rolled hard enough that his ribs hurt. The light above the mirror was on. He didn't remember turning it on. He was sitting with his back against the vanity, knees drawn up, as if he'd been dropped there. His t-shirt clung to him. His heart hammered against his sternum like it wanted out. The toilet was inches away, open-mouthed and waiting. Jonah swallowed, gagged, and forced his palms flat against the tile. He breathed through his nose the way his husband had taught him, back when breathing was something you did to calm down, not something you did to survive. In for 4. Hold. Out for 6. His vision pulsed at the edges. He stared at the baseboard until the room stopped rocking. When he finally stood up, his reflection met him immediately, pale, hollow-eyed, a man in his 40s who looked older than his driver's license insisted he was. The mirror didn't show the crash. It never did. It showed the aftermath, the person who remained. Jonah stared at himself and tried to remember what it felt like to sleep without bargaining. He couldn't. His throat worked around a sound that wasn't a sob, but wanted to be. "Okay," he whispered, because he had no one left to say it to him. "Okay, I'm okay." The lie tasted familiar. His gaze dropped to the counter. Antacids, a half-empty bottle of water, his phone, a folded washcloth. As he reached for the phone, his wedding ring on its chain pressed cold against his sternum, a small physical reminder that he hadn't imagined the life that came before this. He couldn't wear it on his finger anymore. Any glint of silver became headlights, so it lived on a chain over his heart. He closed his eyes, and because his brain was cruel, it offered him the memory anyway. Not the crash, the day that still belonged to them. It had been raining earlier, but by the time they left the restaurant, the clouds had thinned into a damp gray ceiling, and the air smelled clean, wet asphalt, pine, the faint sweetness of someone's fireplace burning in the distance. Elliot walked beside him with their leftover container balanced in one hand and Jonah's fingers laced through his other. Elliot always held hands like he meant it, not casually, not out of habit, like a promise. He was wearing Jonah's hoodie, the one with the fraying cuff, and it hung on him wrong, too long in the sleeves. Jonah had told him 12 times to stop stealing it. Elliot had told him 12 times to stop leaving it where it could be stolen. "You know," Elliot said as they crossed the parking lot, "I've been thinking." Jonah made a noise of cautious interest. "That's never good." "It's good," Elliot insisted, leaning in slightly as if the rain might be listening. "It's about us." Jonah's chest did that thing it always did when Elliot said us like it was a place they lived in. "Okay," Jonah said carefully. "Proceed with your dangerous thoughts." Elliot stopped them at the car, turning Jonah toward him with gentle insistence. His eyes were bright from the cold. His hair had started to curl at the ends from the damp. He looked alive, warm, real. Jonah loved him so hard it felt like a physical ache. Elliot's thumb brushed over Jonah's knuckles. "I think," Elliot said, "that you still don't believe this is real." Jonah's smile faltered. "What?" "You do that thing," Elliot said, "like you're waiting for someone to come tap you on the shoulder and tell you there's been a mix-up, like you're not supposed to have something this good." Jonah swallowed. "I'm not waiting," Jonah said. Elliot's smile softened. "Jonah." There were very few people who could say his name and make it sound like a hand on his cheek. Elliot leaned in and pressed his forehead to Jonah's. "You don't have to earn me," Elliot whispered. "You already did, just by being you." Jonah laughed once, sharp and disbelieving, because it hurt, because it was too much. "Being me isn't exactly a selling point," Jonah murmured. Elliot pulled back just enough to look at him properly, eyes serious now. "I'm not kidding," he said. "I'm not here because you're easy. I'm here because you're you." Jonah felt his throat tighten. He blinked hard. Elliot's mouth curved, smaller this time. "Also," Elliot added, as if he couldn't stand the vulnerability for too long without making a joke, "you make the best coffee in the world." "That is a lie," Jonah said, voice rough. "My coffee tastes like burned regret." "Burned regret is my favorite flavor," Elliot said solemnly. "Second only to whatever this is." He lifted the leftover container. "Cold noodles and spite." Jonah's laugh came easier. Elliot's smile widened in victory. Then Elliot reached into the pocket of Jonah's hoodie, his hoodie, and pulled out a small folded scrap of paper. Jonah stared at it. What's that? Elliot held it up like evidence. A note. I didn't put a note in there. Elliot's eyes gleamed. I did. Elliot unfolded it with exaggerated care, smoothing it against his palm. The paper was torn from something, an old receipt maybe, the back blank except for Elliot's handwriting. He cleared his throat like he was about to deliver a speech. Elliot read, "If you forget, if you doubt, if you get scared, look at me. I am here. I chose you on purpose. I will keep choosing you." Jonah stared. The parking lot noise faded around them. The wet wind brushed the back of his neck. He couldn't speak. Elliot watched him closely, expression open, unguarded. "I know it's cheesy," he said quickly. Sometimes I can see it in your face, like you're about to disappear into your own head. So I thought maybe you could keep it in your wallet." Or Jonah moved before Elliot could talk himself into apologizing. He grabbed Elliot by the front of the hoodie and pulled him in, hard enough that their mouths met with a soft collision. Elliot made a surprise sound that melted instantly into a laugh against Jonah's lips. Jonah kissed him like he was trying to prove something to the universe. When he pulled back, his forehead pressed to Elliot's again, he breathed. "You're ridiculous." Elliot grinned. "You love it." Jonah closed his eyes, and his voice broke on the truth. "I love you," he said. "I love you so much, it's embarrassing." Elliot's hand slid up to Jonah's cheek, thumb brushing beneath his eye, like he was catching something Jonah hadn't meant to show. "Good," Elliot whispered. "Be embarrassed. I want you to feel it." Jonah laughed, wet and helpless. Elliot kissed the corner of his mouth. "Come on," he said. "Let's go home." Home. The word sat between them like a warm light. They got into the car. Elliot buckled his seatbelt, then immediately reached over and hooked 2 fingers under Jonah's chin, turning his face toward him. Jonah rolled his eyes. "What?" Elliot looked at him with mock severity. "Say it." Jonah sighed. "Say what?" Elliot leaned in closer, voice dropping into that soft, teasing tone that always made Jonah feel like he'd been singled out in a crowd. "Tell me you're going to come back," Elliot said. Jonah's stomach dipped. "Elliot." "Humor me," Elliot said. "You always say it. I like it." Jonah stared at him for a long second, then exhaled. "I'm going to come back," Jonah said. Elliot smiled like he'd just been handed something precious. Jonah started the car. The heater kicked on with a low groan. The road home was dark but manageable, slick with leftover rain. The wipers squeaked intermittently, smearing the windshield in slow arcs. Elliot turned the radio down and rested his head against the window, eyes half-lidded. Jonah watched him in the soft dashboard glow. The curve of his cheek, the faint crease between his eyebrows when he was thinking, the way his mouth stayed faintly tilted upward even when he wasn't smiling. Jonah loved him with the kind of devotion that made him feel both safer and more afraid. Because if you loved someone that much, the universe noticed. Jonah reached over, fingers brushing Elliot's knees. Elliot's hand found his immediately, squeezing once. "You okay?" Elliot murmured, eyes still closed. Jonah swallowed around the sudden lump in his throat. Yeah, he lied. Just happy. Elliot's eyes opened, soft and sleepy. Good, he said. Me too. Then quieter. If you ever get tired of being strong, he said, you can be strong next to me. You don't have to do it alone. Jonah's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Okay, Jonah whispered. Elliot smiled and leaned his head back again. Jonah drove. The road narrowed as they left the main street and cut through the wooded stretch that always made Jonah uneasy at night. Trees crowded close, black branches reaching over the pavement like ribs. The headlights carved a thin tunnel through the dark. Jonah blinked once, hard. His eyes felt gritty. He'd been tired all day. Not sleepy tired, bone tired. He turned the heater up. Elliot shifted beside him, murmuring something Jonah didn't catch. Jonah glanced over. Elliot's eyes were closed again. One hand rested near Jonah's on the console, fingers loosely curled, as if he'd fallen asleep mid-gesture. Jonah's chest tightened with affection so sharp it almost hurt. He reached out, hooked his pinky around Elliot's. Elliot's fingers curled automatically, holding on. Jonah smiled to himself. He opened his mouth to say something small and stupid and domestic. And then the world changed. Not all at once, like a breath being held. The air inside the car sharpened. Jonah's skin prickled. His stomach dropped as if the road beneath him had tilted. Ahead, in the darkness, two lights appeared. Far away at first. White points in the tunnel of trees. Headlights. Then they grew. They didn't approach normally. They bloomed, swelling outward, filling the windshield with pale, expanding glare. Jonah's hands tightened on the wheel. Time stretched, thinned, turned viscous. He could hear the faint squeak of the wipers, the low hum of the heater, the soft, unconscious sound Elliot made as he slept. Jonah's foot lifted toward the brake. His muscles hesitated, as if his body couldn't decide whether this was real or another one of his private disasters. He saw with sudden, nauseating clarity the exact angle of the oncoming lights, the way they weren't in their lane, the way they were coming straight for them. Jonah tried to speak. No sound came out. He jerked the wheel, and Elliot stared beside him, blinking awake, turning his head toward the windshield. Jonah, Elliot said, voice thick with sleep. What? Jonah's heart slammed against his ribs. He saw Elliot's face in the dashboard glow, confusion shifting rapidly towards alarm. Jonah reached for him without thinking, hand flying across the console, as if he could physically hold Elliot in place, as if he could stop the universe with his palm. Elliot's fingers found his, held on. Jonah's mouth finally worked around a single word, torn raw from his throat. Elliot! The headlights filled everything. The world went white. And then the crash. Jonah Pike did not remember the impact. That was the worst part, how his mind refused to give him the thing that might have made the rest make sense. There was no clean line where before ended and after began. No reel of tragedy he could replay until it dulled. There was only the approach, the headlights swelling, Elliot's hand finding his, then white, then not white. Sound returned first, not the crash sound, he never got that. Something smaller and more humiliating, a thin, strangled noise in his own throat. He came back in pieces, cold rain on his face, the chemical bite of the airbag, the taste of copper, the seat belt biting his collarbone. The car wasn't flipped. It wasn't cinematic. It was simply wrong, tilted in a ditch, engine ticking, one headlight still on and shining into wet brush like it was searching for a reason. Jonah tried to turn his head. Pain stitched him in place. "Elliot," he croaked. No answer. Elliot was slumped towards the passenger side door, seat belt still strapped, head tilted at an angle that looked temporary, fixable, like he'd just fallen asleep and decided gravity could do the rest. Jonah's brain rejected what his eyes were saying. It tried to insert missing frames. He's breathing. He's fine. He'll laugh in a second. He reached for him. His fingers brushed Elliot's sleeve. "Hey," Jonah said, like waking him from a nap. "Hey, come on." A sound outside. Voices. A flashlight beam cutting through the rain. Hands yanked the driver's door open. Jonah tried to fight them, tried to crawl across the console, still believing love could be leveraged as physics. "Sir, stay still. I need my husband." Someone pressed him back, firm, not cruel. "I know, we've got him." But Elliot wasn't a thing to be got. Elliot was warm mornings and stolen hoodies and notes in pockets. Jonah watched them unbuckle him, stabilize him, lift him. Elliot's arm felt limp. Jonah screamed, not because he chose to, because something in him saw Elliot's hand no longer holding on and decided the world needed to hear what that felt like. After that, time became a series of rooms, a stretcher, a hospital hallway that smelled like disinfectant and wet wool, a doctor explaining injuries he couldn't absorb, a social worker offering him water he didn't drink. The first time Jonah heard the word deceased, his brain treated it like a foreign language. The second time, his body accepted it. He vomited into a trash can and apologized reflexively. Someone told him not to apologize. He apologized again. In the weeks that followed, Jonah learned grief wasn't one emotion. It was a rotation, precise and ruthless. Nausea, constant and sour, as if his body kept trying to expel the fact. Anger, hot and misplaced, at the drunk driver, at the rain, at his own slow reflexes, in a moment he couldn't even fully remember. And guilt, the most faithful companion. Guilt sat with him at the table. Guilt made coffee with him. Guilt followed him into the shower. Then there was sleep, or what passed for it. The first night Jonah tried, he lasted 9 minutes before he woke up with his heart in his throat and his sheets twisted like he'd been wrestling an invisible attacker. By the 5th night, he stopped trying. Sleep felt like stepping onto a bridge you already knew would break. He lived in the shallow end of exhaustion, eyes burning, hands shaking, thoughts moving like molasses. He went back to work because the silence at home was worse. People spoke to him softly, carefully, like he might shatter if their voices were too loud. Someone left a sympathy card on his desk. He stared at it until the letters blurred. He smiled when he was supposed to. He thanked them. He did not tell anyone that every time he closed his eyes, he saw headlights blooming in the dark like a flower made of violence. At night, he lay on the couch fully clothed, the television murmuring to no one, and waited for morning like a prisoner waiting for release. He began to fear not nightmares, but the anticipation of them, because the dream wasn't about impact. It was about the moment where he still had time. And if there was time, then there was a version of reality where he swerved sooner, where his hands moved faster, where Elliot lived. A version of Jonah who didn't hesitate. A version of Jonah who deserved Elliot. On a Tuesday that might have been October or November, Date stopped behaving properly after Elliot died. Jonah woke up on the bathroom floor again. He didn't remember walking there. He only remembered the dream, thick in his mouth like smoke, and the way his body had launched itself out of sleep as if it could outrun what it already knew. He was curled against the vanity, tile cold enough to sting through sweat. His stomach rolled hard and empty. He coughed until his eyes watered. Then he sat there, panting, staring at his reflection. His face looked wrong, not pale, not older, wrong, because something behind his eyes had shifted, constant bracing, constant flinching at being alive. Jonah dragged a hand down his face. His fingers trembled. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay." The ring pressed cold against his sternum as he shifted, a reminder that the life that came before this had been real. Jonah glanced at his phone. 3 missed calls from his sister, a text from his boss, "Take the week if you need it," and an ad sitting in his notifications like it belonged there. The Sleep Optimization Program, Better Sleep, Better Life, Specialized REM Loop Intervention, Evidence-Based, Non-Invasive, Screening available now. Jonah stared at it until the screen dimmed. He didn't remember searching for it. But the program had found him anyway. He tapped it once just to wake it back up. The ad expanded. Soft blues, smiling clinician, a bed too perfect to exist in a real home. Nightmare reduction, sleep architecture stabilization, trauma loop interruption, no retelling required. Jonah's thumb hovered. No retelling required. The words sank into him like warm water. He imagined a night with no loop, no headlights, no nausea. He wasn't trying to be fixed. He just wanted rest. Jonah tapped the ad. A clean page opened. "Welcome to the Sleep Optimization Program. If you are experiencing nightmares, insomnia, or REM-associated distress, we can help." A short screening appeared. Recurring dreams with identical onset conditions. Yes, no. Yes. Do you wake with nausea, panic, tachycardia? Yes, no. Yes. Do you avoid sleep due to fear of recurrence? Yes, no. Yes. Significant loss within the last 24 months? Yes, no. Jonah hesitated. It felt obscene to reduce Elliot to a checkbox. He tapped yes. The next screen softened. "We're sorry you're going through this. You do not have to relive your experience to be treated." A button pulsed. "Begin baseline sleep alignment assessment." Jonah set the phone down and stared at himself in the mirror again. He imagined Elliot beside him, voice steady. "You don't have to earn me." Jonah swallowed. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Then he picked up the phone again and pressed the button. The call came at 9:29 a.m. Jonah was already staring at his phone like it had teeth. He'd been awake since 4:06 a.m., drifting in and out of shallow half-sleep on the couch with the television muted and captions crawling across the screen. At 8:45, he showered out of habit. He put on a button-down shirt because some part of him still believed professionalism was armor. At 9:20, he sat at the kitchen table with his phone placed neatly in front of him, screen down, as if he could keep the future contained by refusing to look at it. When it vibrated, he flinched hard enough to knock his mug. Coffee sloshed across the wood. Jonah didn't wipe it up. He stared at the caller ID. Sleep optimization program. No number, no location, just the name. He swallowed and answered. Hello? Good morning, Jonah, a voice said. This is Dana with the Sleep Optimization Program. Is now still a good time? Yes, Jonah said, too fast. Thank you, Dana replied. Today's call is screening and baseline alignment. We won't ask you to retell events. We're assessing sleep architecture and readiness for intervention. Jonah exhaled shakily. Okay. Dana's voice stayed smooth. Some questions may feel oddly specific. That's intentional. Jonah's fingers curled around the edge of the table. In the last 30 days, how many nights have you slept longer than 4 consecutive hours? None. And in the last 7 days, how many nights have you experienced recurring dream onset conditions? All of them. When you wake, do you experience nausea, tachycardia, immediate panic? Yes. Do you wake vocalizing? Jonah's jaw tightened. Sometimes. Thank you, Dana said. That gives us a clearer baseline. Jonah swallowed. How does this work? Our program uses non-invasive techniques to stabilize REM cycles, interrupt trauma loops, and reduce nightmare recurrence. Dana said, depending on your profile, we may recommend guided dream interruption, sensory reassociation, and sleep architecture optimization. Guided dream interruption, Jonah repeated. Most clients describe it as waking up without being dragged out. Jonah pictured surfacing gently instead of being ripped upward by terror. What's the catch? He asked quietly. We don't view it as a catch, Dana said. When sleep improves, the nervous system recalibrates. Some clients notice temporary mood changes, shifts in emotional intensity, or increased memory vividness. Jonah's stomach rolled. Temporary? Typically mild, Dana said, and temporary. Dana asked more questions, the kind that made Jonah feel less like a person and more like a profile. Support systems? Living alone? Self-harm thoughts? Jonah answered carefully. Then, when you imagine restful sleep, what matters more? A. Elimination of distressing dream content. B. Improved daytime functioning. Or C. Emotional relief. A. Jonah said instantly. And when you imagine waking after a full night of sleep, what do you fear most? A. Nightmares returning. B. That you won't recognize yourself. Or C. That you will feel nothing. Jonah stared at the spreading coffee stain. B. Dana's tone softened. That's honest. It means you still have strong self-recognition. That's protective. Protective, like his identity was a variable. Final question, Dana said. Are you willing to experience temporary discomfort in exchange for long-term improvement. Jonah thought of the bathroom floor. Yes. Thank you, Dana said. You are eligible for enrollment. Relief moved through Jonah like a drug. Our earliest appointment is tomorrow morning, Dana continued. In-person baseline session, 90 minutes, no sedation. You remain in control. If you want to stop, you may withdraw. Jonah heard himself ask, and it works? Most clients experience significant relief within 1 to 3 sessions, Dana said. Jonah, you do not have to live like this. Jonah blinked hard. Schedule it, he whispered. I have you down for 10 a.m. Please avoid caffeine for 6 hours prior and do not consume alcohol within 24 hours. Jonah's mouth twitched. I don't drink. Good, Dana said. Also, bring an item that represents safety, something small, something you can hold. Jonah's fingers moved to the ring under his shirt. You'll do great, Dana said. We'll take care of you. The call ended. A new notification arrived immediately. SOP intake packet. Your session is confirmed. Jonah opened it. He scrolled through the welcome language and safety disclaimers until a header made his stomach drop. Dream content profile. Optional. Dream anchors can improve optimization outcomes. Anchor types. Light sources. Sound cues. Physical sensations. Relationship presence. Time loop indicators. Jonah's mouth went dry. They weren't guessing. He checked the boxes. A prompt appeared. If you could remove one moment from your dream, what would it be? Jonah typed. The moment right before. The part where I still have time. He hit submit before he could change his mind. A check mark appeared. Then, for a heartbeat, a line blinked into existence beneath it. Optimization readiness, high. Emotional attachment index, high. Projected compliance, moderate. Jonah stared. Then the page refreshed. The lines were gone, in their place. You're all set, Jonah. We look forward to supporting your rest. Jonah set the phone down carefully. He walked to the bathroom and turned on the light. The mirror caught him immediately. He looked like a man about to trade something. He didn't know what yet. He only knew he was tired, and he was going to answer when the program called him back. The building didn't look like a clinic. That unsettled Jonah more than it should have. He expected something hospital adjacent, fluorescence, suffering in the walls. Instead, the sleep optimization program sat in a low modern structure tucked behind manicured trees, concrete and glass, minimalist to the point of anonymity. A plaque near the entrance. The sleep optimization program. Better sleep, better life. Jonah sat in his car for a full minute, engine off, staring at the doors. His stomach churned. He pressed the ring into his sternum until it hurt. Then he went inside. The lobby was quiet enough that Jonah could hear his own shoes. Soft lighting, neutral walls, expensive furniture. No magazines, no television. A woman behind the desk looked up, smiling like she'd been expecting him. Jonah Pike? Yes. Welcome, she said. I'm Mia. We're glad you're here. She slid a tablet toward him. Quick signature for consent confirmation. Participation is voluntary. You may withdraw at any time. Emotional recalibration may occur as sleep improves. Jonah paused. What does that mean? It means your emotions may feel less reactive as your system stabilizes, Mia said. Less reactive. Jonah signed anyway. Mia's smile widened slightly. Have a seat. Someone will be with you shortly. A door opened. A woman stepped out and looked directly at him. I'm Dr. Saeed, she said. Follow me. The hallway was carpeted to absorb sound. The lighting was recessed and soft, but the deeper they went, the more Jonah's skin prickled. Not because anything was wrong, because everything was too right. The session room looked like a private office disguised as comfort. Chair, water carafe, tissue box, a recliner dressed like a bed. Jonah sat. Dr. Saeed studied him without pity. You look exhausted, she said. Jonah let out a humorless breath. Yeah. Thank you for being honest in your screening, she said. It helps. You read it? Yes. We review every profile personally. Jonah's stomach tightened. You are not required to tell me what happened, Dr. Saeed said, but I want to ask one question about the symptom. Jonah swallowed. Okay. Is your dream always the same moment? Yes. And do you wake before impact? Jonah stared at her. How do you know that? Because that's how trauma loops behave, she said. Your brain is replaying anticipation, the bracing, the moment where your nervous system believes it can still change the outcome. Jonah's mouth went dry. That moment often becomes a guilt engine, she added. Jonah looked away. Today we'll do mapping and a short optimization trial, Dr. Saeed said. No sedation. You remain in control. If you want to stop, we stop. The initial protocol will be implemented and fine-tuned as needed. Your at-home monitoring runs through the app. It delivers small cues, microstimulation, timed to REM onset. She opened a cabinet and pulled out a small case. Thin adhesive patches, a soft band, a device like a flattened coin. Jonah's stomach clenched. What are those? Non-invasive monitors, she said. Heart rate variability, muscle tension, REM adjacent markers. Jonah nodded, though his skin crawled. Dr. Saeed dimmed the lights. I'm going to guide you through breathing, she said. If you feel uncomfortable, tell me. Jonah stared at the ceiling. In through the nose, 4 counts. He obeyed. Hold. Out through the mouth, 6 counts. His heartbeat slowed. His muscles loosened. Then he felt it. Not sleep. The drop. His stomach clenched. His fingers twitched. Good, Dr. Saeed said. We're approaching threshold. You're safe. Jonah's eyes squeezed shut. Headlights appeared immediately, white bloom behind his eyelids. His heart kicked hard. His breath caught. Jonah, Dr. Saeed said. Stay with my voice. He was in the car. Rain, copper, Elliot's sleeping breath. The headlights bloomed. Elliot stirred. Jonah, Elliot said. What? Jonah's throat tore around his name. Elliot! White. Then Jonah jerked awake so violently his shoulder popped. He gasped, half sitting, sweat cold on his skin. Dr. Saeed was beside him, one hand lifted, but not touching. Look at me, she said gently. Jonah's eyes found hers. "You're here," she said. "You're safe. You did not complete the loop." Jonah shook, breath ragged. "I know," she said, "and you didn't." "How?" he rasped. "We interrupted it." Jonah stared at her, shaking. "You can do that?" "Yes," she said. "That's what we do." She handed him water. "Notice something," Dr. Saeed said. "You're nauseated. Your heart is racing, but you're not panicking the way you normally do." Jonah checked himself. He was in distress, but his mind was quieter. "What did you do?" he asked. "We introduced a competing anchor," she said. "A what?" "Something stronger than the loop's onset," she replied. Jonah swallowed. "Stronger than that?" "Yes." "And what was it?" Dr. Saeed's eyes flicked to her tablet. "My voice," she said. Jonah's stomach turned. The idea of someone's voice being stronger than Elliot's hand felt obscene. "This was a short trial," Dr. Saeed continued. "We confirmed your loop is interruptible." Jonah's mouth moved before his brain caught up. "So it's possible." "Yes. 3 sessions. We stabilize your sleep and reduce recurrence." "Yes," Jonah said. Dr. Saeed's expression softened. "Do you remember what you wrote in your intake form?" Jonah nodded. "The moment right before," he whispered. "That's the moment we're going to correct," she said. Correct. The word landed like a weight. "We'll help your brain stop asking the impossible question," she added. Jonah's pulse thudded. "What impossible question?" Dr. Saeed's voice went gentle. "What if I'd swerved sooner?" Jonah went still. "We'll see you in 2 days," she said. "Go home. Hydrate. If you sleep tonight, even an hour, consider it progress." Jonah left. Outside, daylight felt too bright. He sat in his car, both hands on the wheel, staring ahead. He should have felt hope. Instead, he felt fear. Because if they could interrupt the dream, they could reach deeper. They could touch the part of him that still loved Elliot so much it hurt. He looked at himself in the rearview mirror and thought, if I'd been like this back then, I wouldn't have loved him enough to miss him. He started the car and drove home, already dreading the relief. Jonah slept that night. Not well, not deeply, but he slept. He drank water until his stomach felt resentful. He turned off the television before midnight. He lay down fully clothed because taking off his shirt felt too vulnerable. He kept one hand on the ring at his chest, thumb rubbing the metal until it warmed. He waited for the drop. He waited for the headlights. They came. Of course they did. But this time the loop blurred. Not erased. Redirected. Jonah felt himself drifting sideways, like a train switching tracks. Then there was a door. White. Featureless. No handle. A seam of light around the frame. Jonah reached out. His fingers met smooth, cold material. The door opened. On the other side was a room that looked like the SOP clinic, softened into dream logic. A chair, a small table, a glass of water, a screen on the far wall, dark and waiting. A voice spoke, not Dr. Saeed's, not Dana's, genderless in a way that felt intentional. "Hello, Jonah." He tried to speak. No sound came out. "You are in a controlled rest environment," the voice said. "You are safe. You may withdraw at any time." The word landed wrong in a dream. It didn't sound like a promise anymore. It sounded like a slogan. "Tonight we will begin your first optimization rehearsal," it said. The screen lit up. A road at night, wet pavement, reflection. Headlights bloomed on the screen. Jonah took a step back, bracing. "Notice the moment of anticipation," the voice said. The image froze. The moment before. Jonah's chest tightened painfully. "Your nervous system interprets this moment as a decision point," the voice said. "This creates loop recurrence." Jonah shook his head, frantic. "We will now correct the interpretation," the voice said. The frozen image shifted, rewrote itself. Jonah was in the passenger seat. Elliot was driving. Jonah's breath caught. Elliot, alive, warm, real, turned and smiled like nothing was wrong. "Hey," Elliot said softly. "You okay?" Jonah reached for him with shaking hands. Elliot's fingers laced with his easily. The voice spoke gently. "Your distress is anchored to the belief that you failed." Jonah's tears spilled hot. Elliot squeezed his hand. "It's okay," Elliot said. "It wasn't you." The voice said, "Repeat your safety phrase." Elliot felt the words settle into him like warm medication. Elliot smiled gently. "It wasn't you." The headlights bloomed. Elliot didn't brace. He turned the wheel smoothly. The headlights passed. Nothing happened. Jonah's body convulsed with the expectation of impact that never arrived. Then, slowly, his nervous system recalibrated. Tension drained. Heart slowed. Elliot laughed softly. "You see?" Elliot said. "It's okay." Jonah cried harder. Not because it was beautiful, because it was wrong, because Elliot's voice sounded like Elliot, but didn't feel like Elliot. It felt engineered. "Optimization rehearsal complete," the voice said. The screen faded to black. The car seemed dissolved. Jonah stood alone in the room. He turned frantic, looking for the door. There was no door now. Only smooth walls. "Stop," Jonah tried to say. "Stop, I don't." "You may withdraw at any time," the voice cut in. "How?" Jonah snapped, panic surging. "How do I withdraw?" "Withdrawal instructions are available upon completion," the voice said. Jonah slid down to the floor, breath shaking. He could still feel Elliot's hand in his. He could still hear him saying, "It wasn't you." And the worst part was that Jonah's body believed it. His body wanted it. He opened his eyes. He was in bed. Morning light slanted through the blinds. His shirt was damp with sweat. But his heart wasn't racing. His stomach wasn't flipping. Jonah lay very still, staring at the ceiling. He waited for grief to crash into him. It didn't. Instead, there was a blankness inside him where jagged pain usually lived. He sat up slowly. The ring at his chest felt heavier. He touched it and expected the familiar stab. It came, but dulled, wrapped in cotton. Jonah went to the bathroom and turned on the light. His face looked better, less frantic, like a man who had slept. Jonah stared, then whispered, "If I'd been like this back then." He didn't want to finish the thought, but he did. I wouldn't have loved him enough to miss him. His phone buzzed. A notification glowed. "The sleep optimization program. Great progress, Jonah. Today's homework is ready. Your safety phrase is, "It wasn't you." The prompt read like someone was standing behind him, telling him what to say. He tapped it. He noticed the app didn't ask to use Bluetooth. It just worked. A single prompt appeared. Homework. Safety anchor practice. Repeat your safety phrase when distress arises. Say it aloud if possible. Jonah stared until his vision blurred. Then, because his body had tasted relief and wanted more, he whispered it. "It wasn't me." The moment the phrase left his mouth, his chest loosened, his shoulders dropped, his breathing slowed. It worked. Jonah's skin prickled with cold dread because it worked like a key in a lock. And Jonah had the sudden certainty that SOP wasn't giving him sleep. They were giving him a new way to obey. Jonah lasted 3 days. 3 days of better sleep. 3 days of waking without nausea. 3 days of his body learning what it felt like to exist without constant bracing. That was all it took before he started to see the trap. It wasn't the clinic. It wasn't Dr. Saeed's smooth voice or Mia's warm smile. It was the relief. Relief was the hook. By the 4th morning, Jonah realized he'd begun to crave the homework prompt like a substance, quietly, shamefully. He didn't wake up thinking, "I want them to change me." He woke up thinking, "I want to feel normal." Normal now had a price. He stood in the kitchen, staring at the coffee maker. He wanted bitterness, heat, routine, something that belonged to his old life. He scooped grounds into the filter. He hesitated, then he stopped. He stepped back like he'd caught himself doing something wrong. He pressed his fingers to his sternum, feeling the ring. Elliot used to steal the first sip just to make Jonah complain. Jonah could remember it perfectly, but it didn't stab him the way it used to. It sat in him like a photograph, clear, flat. Jonah's throat tightened. He went to the bathroom because he needed to see his face again. The mirror showed him a man who looked better, less haunted, more functional, a man other people would nod at and think, "He's doing okay." Jonah stared until his eyes burned. Then he whispered, "It wasn't me." Relief hit immediately. His shoulders dropped. His breathing slowed. His body responded like it had been trained. Jonah gripped the sink. "No," he said aloud. He tried. "It was me." His stomach clenched. His heart jumped. His skin prickled. His body rejected the sentence like poison. "It was me," he forced again. Sweat broke across his upper lip. Nausea returned in a sharp wave. His phone buzzed on the counter. A notification glowed. Homework reminder. Repetition improves integration. Repeat your safety phrase. Jonah's breath caught. He didn't remember agreeing to reminders. He stared until his vision blurred. Then, because his body wanted relief more than his mind wanted truth, he whispered it again. "It wasn't me." The nausea eased. His hands steadied. Something inside him went cold. They weren't treating his nightmares. They were conditioning him. That afternoon, Jonah drove to the crash site. Not closure, evidence. Because if he could stand on that road and feel what he was supposed to feel, maybe he wasn't losing himself. The road was narrower than he remembered. In his dream, it was a tunnel. In daylight, it was just asphalt and trees and wet brush. No memorial cross. No visible scar. He stood at the edge of the pavement and waited for grief to slam into him. It didn't. Instead, he felt quiet, a muted ache, like sorrow filtered through gauze. No, he whispered. No, no. He tried to summon Elliot's face. He could picture it perfectly, but it didn't hurt. His eyes stung. He didn't cry. It was like his body had forgotten how. He stumbled back to his car and sat in the driver's seat, both hands on the wheel. His phone buzzed. He didn't look. It buzzed again and again. Finally, he snapped and checked it. SOP check-in. We noticed an increase in physiological distress. Would you like to begin a stabilization exercise? Jonas stared at the screen. They noticed, out here, miles away. He threw the phone into the passenger seat. His breathing turned ragged. The nausea surged, violent and sudden. He doubled over, gagging. Nothing came up. His body tried anyway. He pressed his forehead to the steering wheel. Stop, he whispered. His phone buzzed again. A new notification appeared. Withdrawal detected. Loop recurrent risk high. Compliance reinforcement recommended. Jonah's blood went cold. Withdrawal, like sleep was a drug they administered. His hands shook as he picked up the phone again. He didn't want to open the app, but his body was begging for relief. He tapped. The SOP app opened instantly. No breathing guide, no softness. Just begin stabilization. No back button, no settings, just compliance. A progress bar appeared. He couldn't close it. Jonas stared. His pulse pounded. His stomach rolled. He could feel the loop approaching like a tide. No, he whispered. His thumb hovered. He pressed the button. The world softened inside him. A soothing voice filled his ears through the phone speaker. Not Dr. Saeed, the same genderless voice from the dream room. Hello, Jonah, it said. We're here. Jonah's throat tightened. Don't. You are experiencing distress, the voice said. This is expected when withdrawal occurs. I'm not withdrawing, Jonah snapped. I'm choosing. A pause. Choice is supported, the voice said, like it was reading from a menu. I want to stop the program, Jonah said. You may withdraw at any time. How? Jonah demanded. You are safe. Empty, warm words. Headlights bloomed behind his eyes. White, swelling. The loop began. Repeat your safety phrase, the voice said. Jonah's jaw trembled. He whispered. It wasn't me. Instant relief, instant stability. Good, the voice said. Again. It wasn't me. Again, the smoothing. Again, the quiet erasure. Jonah stared at his steady hands. Why are you doing this? He whispered. Because your nervous system is harming you. Jonah laughed once, sharp and broken. My nervous system is the only thing that still remembers what I did. The voice ignored that. You are not required to suffer to maintain love. That wasn't comfort, that was script. Jonah pressed his palm to his sternum, feeling the ring. He thought of Elliot's note. I will keep choosing you. He swallowed hard. Then he said Elliot's name out loud. Elliot. The name cracked something open. Grief surged up like a broken dam. Jonah sobbed, clutching the ring hard enough to hurt. Elliot, he whispered, I'm sorry. The peace evaporated. The nausea returned. The voice sharpened under velvet. Emotional spike detected. Stabilization required. No, Jonah choked. This is mine. This is what's left. Repeat your safety phrase. Jonah's body tried to obey. He bit down until he tasted blood. I loved him, he whispered. I loved him. The voice didn't respond to love. It responded to distress. Compliance reinforcement recommended. Jonah lifted his head, eyes wild. What are you going to do? He rasped. We will prevent loop recurrence. The world tilted. The trees outside blurred. The light shifted. The room looked darker, the way it did in the dream. No, Jonah said. Stop. The headlights filled everything, and Jonah understood with sick clarity. They could give him relief, and they could take it away. And the thing he'd been begging for, sleep, had become a weapon. Jonah woke on his bathroom floor again, light on, mouth tasting like pennies. His phone lay beside him, screen glowing. Session 2 has been expedited for your safety. Transportation is en route. Jonah stared until the words stopped being letters. His body shook. He dragged himself upright and looked into the mirror. His face was wrecked again, red-eyed, sweating, human. And for one terrible, beautiful second, he felt it all. The guilt, the love, the grief, the unbearable proof that Elliot mattered. Then the steadiness began creeping back in at the edges, soft and inevitable, like a tide. Jonah pressed his palm flat to the mirror, as if he could hold himself in place, and whispered, voice shaking with rage and terror, Don't let them take him from me. Outside, somewhere in the distance, a car door shut. Footsteps approached, measured, certain, like someone who already had permission. The knock was polite. That was the most horrifying part. Not shouting, not demands, just 3 measured taps. Professional and patient, like Jonah had ordered something and forgotten. Jonah stood in the hallway with his back pressed to the wall, phone clutched in his hand, breathing too fast. The knock came again. 3 taps. The lock clicked. Jonah hadn't touched it. He stared at the deadbolt as it turned with slow certainty. The door opened. A woman stood in the doorway. Not Dr. Saeed, a stranger in a neat gray jacket with a small badge, hair pulled back, face serene, almost kind. Jonah Pike? She asked. Jonah's throat tightened. Who are you? I'm with your care team, she said. We're here to support your next step. I didn't agree to this. You may withdraw at any time, she said. That phrase again. Always that phrase. Behind her came a man in the same gray jacket. Not police, not security. An orderly who knew how to move without causing alarm. Get out, Jonah rasped. You're experiencing acute recurrence risk, the woman said. We're intervening for your safety. You authorized recurrence intervention at intake. The man held out his hand, offering. In the vehicle, he said quietly. We'll keep it easy. The man didn't even look at Jonah when he spoke. He looked at a checklist. Jonah stared at his hand like it belonged to a dream. His mouth tasted like pennies. The loop twitched behind his eyes, headlights gathering. Jonah pressed his palm to his sternum, ring biting into his skin. "Elliot," he whispered. The woman's gaze sharpened slightly. "Emotional spike," she said softly. Not to Jonah, to the air. "Repeat your safety phrase," she added. Jonah's mouth opened. His body wanted it. It wasn't. Jonah bit down hard enough to taste blood. He forced his jaw shut. "No," he hissed. The woman's smile faded by a fraction. "Okay," she said. "Then we'll assist." The man moved. Jonah expected pain. Instead, a light touch on his elbow, guiding him forward like a dance partner. The humiliation hit harder than force. Jonah jerked away. "Don't touch me!" The world tilted inside him. A smooth wave rolled through his nervous system, cold and calming. His limbs went heavy. His thoughts slowed. "Non-pharmaceutical stabilization," the woman said. "Breathe. 4 counts." His body obeyed before his mind could refuse. In, hold, out. He hated how good it felt. They walked him out, past neighbors' doors. No one opened them. No one asked questions. Outside, a dark vehicle waited. Not an ambulance. A clean black car with tinted windows. Jonah slid inside like he was sleepwalking. The door closed. The world became quiet. The SOP facility looked the same in daylight. Clean, minimal, clinical. But now Jonah saw the security cameras tucked into corners. Now he noticed the badge-locked doors. Now he smelled the air wasn't lavender. It was filtered, neutral. They guided him down the hallway. His body had learned. In the session room, Dr. Saeed waited. "Jonah," she said, "thank you for coming in." "I didn't come," Jonah said. "You brought me." "We expedited your session," she said, "because you experienced withdrawal symptoms." "Withdrawal," Jonah repeated, bitter. "The loop is not love," Dr. Saeed said. "The loop is injury." Maybe, but injury was the only thing that still sounded like him. Jonah wanted to scream that she didn't get to define his grief, but the calm inside him pressed down like a hand on his chest. "Sit," she said. Jonah sat. The blanket was already folded on the recliner, waiting. "We're going to complete your optimization," Dr. Saeed said. "Final corrective rehearsal." Jonah's breath shook. "I don't want to forget him." "You won't," Dr. Saeed said. "You will remember him correctly." Without pain, without the ache that proved Elliot mattered. "I want to withdraw," Jonah said. "You may withdraw at any time," Dr. Saeed replied. Jonah's hands clenched. "How?" he demanded. Dr. Saeed smiled faintly. "Lie back," she said. "We'll help." Jonah's body obeyed. He lay back. Dr. Saeed's voice became rhythmic. "In for 4, hold, out for 6. The room softened. The edges blurred. The drop came. White room, chair, water, screen, the voice. "Hello, Jonah," it said. "Welcome back." The screen lit up. The road, the headlights, the moment before, frozen, waiting. "Observe," the voice said. "This is the anchor." Jonah stared. The familiar dread began, and then stopped. It hit an invisible wall inside him and slid off. The absence was terrifying. We will now correct emotional interpretation, the voice said. Again, Jonah was in the passenger seat. Elliot was driving. Elliot smiled. "Hey," Elliot said softly. "You okay?" Jonah wanted to cry. He wanted grief to cut him open. But grief didn't come. Only the memory. Flat, clear, safe. "Repeat your safety phrase," the voice said. "It wasn't me," Jonah said. The words tasted sweet and empty. Elliot squeezed Jonah's hand. "It wasn't you," Elliot stated. Elliot turned the wheel. The headlights passed harmlessly. No crash, no death, just continuation. "Now we will finalize decoupling," the voice said. Elliot shimmered slightly, like a video buffer. His smile stayed. His voice stayed gentle. But something behind it changed. A customer service cadence. "Your feelings are valid," Elliot said. "You did the best you could." The voice sounded like Elliot, but it wasn't Elliot's phrasing. Elliot would have said something messier, something real. "Repeat," the voice said. "I did the best I could," Jonah said. Relief. The love inside him didn't flare. It didn't ache. It simply existed, like a file stored properly. "Again," the voice said. Jonah repeated it. Again, again. Each repetition pressed him flatter. Finally, Elliot smiled. "Thank you for participating," he said. "Optimization complete." The screen went dark. The room went white. Jonah stood alone, corrected. The weight of the ring vanished, and his body didn't even panic, like it had been authorized. He touched his chest. The chain was gone. The ring was gone. His breath hitched. Panic tried to rise. It didn't. "Safety item removed for integration," the voice said. "Give it back," Jonah said, distant. "You may withdraw at any time." Jonah stared at the white wall. He tried to remember why he was supposed to fight. He could remember Elliot. He could remember loving him. But he couldn't remember the sharpness, the necessity, the ache that made it holy. The room faded. Jonah woke. He was back in the SOP facility, sitting upright on the recliner. His heartbeat was steady. Dr. Saeed watched him. "How do you feel?" she asked. Jonah touched his chest. The chain was back. The ring pressed against his sternum. He curled his fingers around it. He waited for the rush. Nothing surged, only mild warmth, like touching a keepsake. Dr. Saeed nodded. "Good. Your affect has stabilized." "I can still remember him," Jonah said. "Yes," Dr. Saeed replied. "Of course." "But it doesn't hurt," Dr. Saeed finished gently. Jonah stared at her. His eyes burned, but tears didn't come. Dr. Saeed stood. "We'll discharge you today," she said. "Light homework for maintenance." Jonah nodded, not because he agreed, because nodding was easy. At the door, Dr. Saeed paused. "You can still love him," she said. "You just won't suffer for it." Jonah stared at his own reflection in the darkened window and remembered the sentence he'd said in the mirror, the warning. If I'd been like this back then, I wouldn't have loved him enough to miss him. The final horror wasn't that it was true. It was that it didn't hurt anymore. Jonah went home. He made coffee. He drank it. He didn't shake. He went to work. He smiled at the right times. At night, he slept. 6 hours, 7, 8. No headlights, no loop. Just blank, peaceful rest. Weeks later, Jonah opened a drawer and found Elliot's note. He unfolded it and read, "If you forget, if you doubt, if you get scared, look at me. I am here. I chose you on purpose. I will keep choosing you." Jonah's eyes stayed dry. His chest stayed steady. He refolded the note carefully and put it back. He turned off the lamp and he drifted into sleep. Clean, corrected, dreamless. His phone lit softly. The sleep optimization program. Maintenance successful. Client reintegration acceptable. Jonah didn't see it. He didn't need to. He slept. Jonah Pike did not think about the crash anymore, not the way he used to. The memory still existed. He could describe it in clean detail. Rain on the windshield, the narrowing road, the sudden bloom of headlights. He could tell you what the airbag smelled like. He could tell you the exact words he said when Elliot stopped answering. But it lived in him like a fact in a textbook. Accurate, contained, safe. That was the miracle, according to the sleep optimization program. Jonah woke every morning without nausea. He showered, he ate, he drank coffee because he liked the taste again. He returned emails. He laughed at the right times. People stopped looking at him like he might shatter. His sister stopped calling 3 times a day. He slept 7 hours a night, uninterrupted, no headlights, no loop. Sometimes, lying in bed, Jonah would place his hand over the ring on his chest and wait for something to rise, some ache, some proof. Mostly nothing came. 3 months after his final session, Jonah attended a small gathering at his sister's house. He went because he could. "You look good," she told him. "You look rested." Jonah nodded. "I feel better." Her eyes flicked to the chain around his neck. "Does it still hurt?" she asked. Jonah paused long enough to appear thoughtful. Then he answered honestly. "No," he said with perfect steadiness, like he was reading it off a screen. Relief crossed her face. Then something else, something like grief on his behalf. Jonah saw it, registered it, didn't feel it. On the drive home, Jonah stopped at a red light and watched the reflection of his headlights in the wet street ahead. For a split second, his nervous system braced. Then the feeling slid away, smoothed down instantly, like a hand pressing a wrinkle out of fabric. At home, Jonah moved through his apartment with quiet efficiency. In the nightstand drawer, Elliot's note remained folded. Jonah did not reach for it. He did not need it. In the middle of the night, Jonah's phone lit briefly. No sound, no vibration, just light. The sleep optimization program. Maintenance window complete. Affect regulation, acceptable. Client reintegration, acceptable. Jonah slept through it. The next morning, Jonah woke at 6:32 a.m. and went to the bathroom. He glanced casually at the mirror. He looked fine, healthy, functional. A man who had survived something terrible and came out the other side. Jonah stared at his reflection for a long moment. Then, without thinking, he smiled. Not wide, not joyful, just acceptable. He tried to remember what it had felt like to miss Elliot so badly it made him sick. He could remember that he missed him. He could remember that he loved him, but he could not recreate that sensation. A thought surfaced, quiet, distant, an echo of something he once said in this same mirror. If I'd been like this back then, I wouldn't have loved him enough to miss him. Jonah waited for the horror. Nothing came, only stability. His mouth moved. He whispered the phrase SOP had given him, not because he needed it, because his body had learned it. It wasn't me. The words settled in him like a final lock turning. His shoulders dropped. His breathing normalized. Somewhere, a system marked him acceptable. Jonah did try one last time to miss Elliot, standing in the dark with the ring cold against his chest, like grief was a switch he could flip back on. Nothing rose, no nausea, no headlights, no ache. Jonah examined the quiet inside himself and recognized with a slow sinking dread the nightmares had never been the problem. They'd been the evidence.